Host Joni Lane, and you were listening to music by Sam Houston from his CD Beyond the Crescent Moon. Um, I encourage you to check out Sam's website to see what his music's all about. He does a lot of explanations on his website how he makes his music. And also, you can buy the CDs there, or I have them at my nonprofit for sale as well. They're $10 a piece. Thank you, LCM TV, for having us here today. We're here every Monday at 3 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. And Positive Light is a nonprofit based in Kelseyville, California. We're in Northern California, about 2 hours north of San Francisco, in beautiful Lake County. A nice, beautiful rural area, and we love it here. Beautiful people, beautiful place. A lot of great energy here. There's a very large Native American population here. And next week, Eugenie Steinman will be telling us a little bit about the history of the Native American population here. The history of how long they've been here, their life. She's got some wonderful pictures that she's going to share with us and explain what they are and the history behind them. She's going to also show us how to make tule dolls, which is part of the heritage of the Pomo Indians in the area. And there's apparently some significance behind them and a large history, so we'll learn more about that too. That'll be next Monday, May 18th at 3 o'clock, so join me for that. That should be a very interesting show. I'm excited about that and having her on the show. And then the following week, on May 25th, I will have Helen Turley back, as well as her partner Norb Yates, who have both been on the show before, but they'll be on together next in 2 weeks, May 25th at 3 o'clock on Monday. And they'll be discussing their upcoming class that begins June 1st, I believe. They'll tell us more about that. And that will be a discussion about the 5 agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz. And they also incorporate Enneagrams in their classes, which is a number that can describe your personality and help you learn more about yourself to help you grow and become a better person, be a better you. So it sounds like a really interesting class. Unfortunately for me, it's held on Monday nights, which is a night that I hold my meditation classes, so I'm not able to attend it, which is frustrating for me because I really want to go. So I will make time for that. But I encourage you to come tune in next week for Eugenie, and on the 25th for Helen and Norb. Those are going to be very interesting shows at 3 o'clock on Monday. As I said earlier, we are a nonprofit called A Positive Light. And what we do at A Positive Light is we hold classes and groups. We have a large meditation room, and I'm a teacher, but I also have guests that are teachers as well. Um, and we teach meditation and personal growth classes of all different kinds. I teach a healing Qigong class a few times a year, and I'm getting ready to schedule that within the next few months. That is an all-day class, well, it's 6 to 8 hours, which is fairly much all day. And it's a very healing class where you will learn how to move energy using Qigong to heal yourself with. And the energy actually heals you. It's very positive energy, flushes out toxins. My teacher, Master Ming Tonggu, taught me how to use this energy movement, and so I can share it with you and teach you how to use it for yourself. On the second Tuesday of every month, this month that's tomorrow, the 12th, we hold a 12 in Zen at 7 o'clock. And 12 in Zen is based on the book 12 in Zen by Bill Krumbine, and we will talk about the steps, how they're written, and at the end of the show, and you're seeing this right now, there's a graphic up on the show, on the screen, where it describes a sample of what we do. And we'll go over that a little bit more at the end of today's show too. But that will be tomorrow at 7 o'clock. Tonight at 7 o'clock is our meditation. Neither one of those has a cost to it. It's no cost. We went on donations because we are a non-profit. So donations are appreciated. And that can be whatever you're comfortable with. That can be $1, $5, $10. Some people come every week and they may donate $100 once or $20 once. It's really up to what you can afford comfortably. Every little bit helps, and it does keep our doors open and keeps us running. It also goes into the upkeep and the ground that we work for our gardens. We're looking for donations, not only monetarily, but in the form of volunteer work. If you'd like to come work on the gardens, we could really use the help. Any expertise that you have that you'd like to teach us in perma-farming or organic farming would be welcome. And soil and seeds and anything else that is obviously needed for a garden and landscaping is very much appreciated. So feel free to contact me and email me or phone me, and that information to contact me will be coming up on the screen throughout the show today, so you'll have plenty of time to write that down. But feel free to call and leave a message. I'll call you back if I don't answer. And email me, and I will get back to you. I promise. As long as I get your email, I will get back to you. So those are some of the things we do at A Positive Light. We are looking for more ideas. If you have something positive that you'd like to share at the Meditation Center, please let me know. We can set up a class that you can teach, a group that you can hold. Maybe you'd like to hold a drumming circle. I would love to do that. I've done that before myself. That would be great. Just let me know. Let's make that happen. If there's something else you'd like to do that's a positive group or class, that's what the place is for. My original vision was to create a center where people could come and share positive messages with each other. And that can be any kind of group that shares a positive message. So it's your place too, where you can come and share what you know and share some fun things, some fun ideas. Maybe you have a painting class you don't have a place to hold it, but you'd really like to have a group of people. It's a great place to do that. Just let me know. We'll make that happen. So please feel free to call me or email me with ideas, and we can set something up for you. It needs to be utilized. It's a beautiful place with beautiful energy, and it needs to be utilized. It's your place to use. It's yours to use. I'll repeat that again because I really want to make the message understood that this is not my meditation center. It's a community center where you can set up groups and classes. So contact me to do that, please. We're also looking for advertisers, some sponsors to support us. And on this show, I will be happy to advertise whatever business that you have. If you have a business that you want more exposure, I can um, create a graphic for you and give you a quick commercial here, and then we can keep the cost low as $40 a month for advertising for you, which is very reasonable. And it is on the World Wide Web, so you do get a lot of exposure. So consider contacting me to become a sponsor for the show and for the center. And also keep in mind that if you do consider being a sponsor, you can create a write-off for yourself and your business, or you can create a donation. So we can discuss, since we are a nonprofit, how you want to approach that. But the most important point is to get your advertisement out there for your business. So I'm keeping the prices very low so that you can afford to do this. We need sponsors, and I know that you need advertisers. So together I'm sure we could work something out. So contact me about that. I look forward to doing that, and I love working with people. So the more people I have involved, the more fun it's going to be. The last couple of weeks, I've been talking about the Four Noble Truths. And the Four Noble Truths, very simple, but it's a huge part of developing your independence as a person. And I'm going to talk about a little bit about that today, but I'm also going to explain it in a different way than I have been. We've all heard the term that we're spiritual beings having a human experience. And that can mean a lot of things. Maybe we're here in this form to learn a lesson. Maybe we're here in this form on this planet experiencing different circumstances so that we can bring them forward into our next incarnation to teach people or to learn something for our next life. Who knows why we're here, but we are here, and we know we are spiritual. We know we have a human body. We know that we are not our body. We are the spirit that lives in the body. So a lot of times when we grow up, we're asking the questions of, why are we here? What's the whole purpose of this thing? What's this all about? And we tend to make it more confusing than it really is, I think. I think we are here, and we just are. Whether there's another grand plan behind the whole thing doesn't really matter, because we are here, and we are emotional beings, and we are run by emotions. There are a lot of logical people that logic runs them, but for the most part, we are emotional people that are run by emotions. We do have a logical mind, but we can get caught up in our emotions. And when the emotions run you, I think you're missing a part of your life that you could make more whole. I'm trying to make sure that I use the correct words because I really want to make this point understood, and trying to keep it simple because I think it is simple. There's a lot of reasons to be here, and I think every one of us, the billions of us, there's billions of reasons to be here. But in the Four Noble Truths, the first noble truth is that suffering exists. And I think we all agree that suffering exists. It exists outside of ourselves when we see the rest of the world. There's people that are hungry, and earthquakes that are happening, and people are dying, and losing people, and there's things that aren't good. Yes, suffering exists. And suffering exists in our individual lives too. We aren't always happy. Sometimes it's difficult to deal with some things. So suffering exists. The second noble truth is that suffering arises from attachments to desires. Well, that's true, and it's not true in the statements that I just made. When you look at the world as a whole, and you see children starving, that is painful to watch. It's painful for them to experience. It's not that they're attached to that desire. What's painful is that we desire people to be fed and healthy and children to be happy and cared for. And when we see that's not happening, that desire is unfulfilled and is painful because we have compassion and we care about them. The third noble truth is that suffering ceases when attachment to desire ceases. So as much as we can want things for people, sometimes we can't do anything about it. Sometimes we can want something for ourselves, and there's nothing we can do about it. So the more we want something and the more we can't do anything about it, we can't make a change or we can't have what we want, the more we're going to suffer. But the fourth noble truth that there is freedom from suffering by practicing the way or the Dharma or the Eightfold Path. Practicing the way or the Dharma means practicing accepting what is. Practicing looking at life for what it really is, not for what we want it to be. Now, yeah, if we see people that are hurting, we can make the choice to help them, and we should. That not only makes them feel better, but it makes us feel better for having done something. And people have compassion. It's part of our human nature. For the most part, most of us are very compassionate. When we see somebody hurting, it hurts us. The empathy we feel for that pain they're feeling is a form of compassion. And when we act on things and make changes to change for the better, we're ceasing suffering. When you think about the Four Noble Truths, there are 4 points. But there are 4 points that go off in many directions. Suffering exists. Suffering arises from attachment to desire. Suffering ceases when attachment to desire ceases. And freedom from suffering is possible by practicing non-attachment. Non-attachment means don't be attached to something that you have no control over. And this is where the serenity prayer comes in handy for me. It helps me remind myself what I can change and what I must accept. Help me accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. When we accept things that we cannot change, we just accept what is. As much as we may not want that as our desired outcome, it is the outcome. And the more you fight it, the more frustrated you're going to get, but the more you're still not going to get what you want. So there's this whole cycle that goes around and around in our head about I want this and I want that, and why can't it be this way and why can't it be that way? Sometimes things can change when we take action, but sometimes they can't. And when we practice acceptance, accepting the things we can't change, and accepting responsibility and courage to change the things we can simplify things. And when we simplify things, we can let go of suffering. It takes a lot of courage to get through some of the painful experiences that we must go through as part of being human and living this life. There are many painful situations that we've all encountered and will encounter. It's part of being human. But how can we make it easier on ourselves? And I think living in balance is a big part of the answer to being happy. Now, living in balance is part of what Buddha taught was walking the middle way, staying in the middle, being balanced. No extreme actions. And that makes sense. Most extreme actions cause extreme emotions, so it makes sense to walk in the middle way and be balanced, to live a balanced life. There's often an expectation in our relationships. There's an expected outcome, I should say, in our relationships. We can learn as children that if we do one thing, we will get an accolade. We will, when I do this, this will be the outcome. If I act in this way, this will be the behavior I exhibit, and this will be the outcome from that behavior. When it doesn't happen the way we want it to happen, if you're a child and you're trying to make your parents happy by acting a certain way and getting the accolades that you want, and then you don't get it, you get very disappointed. And so as a child, you act out in anger because you're frustrated and you didn't get your kudos, you didn't get your pat on the back, and you don't understand why. Mommy and Daddy always tell me I'm doing great, and now they're not. And it's disappointing. And that is a form of suffering. We learn it as children. And we learn it in school with our teachers, and we learn it pretty much in life. There are rules we need to follow. When we follow them, we get good pats on the back and attaboys and kudos, and we think, okay, goody, I did good. And so I must be a good person. And you feel good about yourself because you did good. And I think we carry that through our life. We carry that with us everywhere we go. And it may morph into different forms as we get older, but we still kind of look for that. How did I do? Did I do a good job? And I think we all do that. It's just part of being human. Absolutely nothing wrong with it. And it's perfectly normal. But when we live our life to make other people happy in order to make ourselves feel fulfilled or that we are doing a good job, we need to start looking at that and ask yourself, why do I need that accolade? Why do I need to have that kind of feedback? It's important that we know we're good people, and it's important that our parents and peers and other people in our family and society teach us that we are good and we are following a guideline in life that helps us get through life in a better way. But when we depend on that to feel good about who we are, there's something that's lacking. There's something that we've missed. And there's something we become dependent on that if we don't get, we feel suffering, we feel pain. So I think during meditation you can take a look at that and think, where does this come from? Why do I need this? Why do I feel like I need this? And this is an important part of living without suffering. Stepping back and looking at it. Why do I need what I think I need? Why do I need the pat on the back? Why do I need someone to tell me I'm doing a good job? I know I'm doing a good job. Am I doing the best I can? Yes. Okay. There you go. I mean, as long as you're being a good person and you're being a kind and compassionate person and working hard at what you believe in, you shouldn't have to have people tell you you're doing a good job. Yet it's something we all love to hear. It kind of makes us feel justified in our behavior. It validates our behavior. It validates am I doing it right? Am I doing good? This is part of insecurity. And where does this insecurity come from? The insecurity comes from the fact that we didn't learn that we can do things without accolades. When your core family, the people who brought you up, whether they're your true family or your adopted family or whoever it is that raised you, there's a certain amount of expectation. There's a certain amount of, we expect them to accept us for who we are. We expect them to always love us no matter what. There is a certain unspoken expectation between us and our immediate family where we think, I should always get their love. I should always be approved by them. I should always be applauded for my behavior. This is an expectation as we grow up. Will you always have your family? Will you always have their love? And that's not necessarily true. But society has taught us that it's very important that our family give us those accolades. I think for the most part, most families do. Most families do have unconditional love to a certain degree. Most families when you expect to be accepted by your family, I think most families can provide that. But there are some people who have a very difficult time giving that because of their childhoods. And so as children, that can confuse us. We can think, well, so-and-so's mother and father think that they're so wonderful and they're always telling him that, but mine don't. So there must be something wrong with me. And it's funny how children will automatically think there's something wrong with them and carry that with them for the rest of their life. It's really normal. It's really typical behavior. And I think no matter where you're raised in this world, it's a very typical reaction for a child to immediately think there's something wrong with them when their parents are incapable of giving them the love that other parents can automatically give. If that's the case, and I know that that's happened to everyone at some point in their life, as a child we're very sensitive and we're always looking for some kind of acclaim, some kind of pat on the back, some kind of validation that we are doing good and we're doing it right. That when we don't get it, that sticks with us longer than any compliment. You can get 10 compliments in a row, but one criticism will stick with you longer than anything else. It kind of just washes out all those other compliments that you got. And it's funny when you think about it as an adult. Why should that affect me so deeply? Why should that affect me 30, 40 years later so deeply? Why am I still looking for that? I think it's a very important question to ask yourself. When I was talking to Helen and Norb earlier on their show, when they were here before, we were talking about self-acceptance. We were talking about where that comes from. And we're talking about what do you do with it when you carry around this feeling of lack of self-worth because of something that happened in your childhood. And we were also talking about meditation, being able to kind of help you step back and look at those things objectively, without emotions, and kind of point out what you can let go of and what you may want to look at differently. Maybe you don't want to let go of some things, but maybe you can look at it differently. Instead of taking things personally, maybe you can look at it as, wow, I feel sorry for that parent who wasn't able to give that love. What happened to them? What made them that way? What could have happened to them in their childhood that hurt them so deeply that they're unable to give that kind of love? Now you're looking at it from a compassionate point of view, but you're not necessarily feeling lack of self-worth. You're looking at it more of compassionately thinking, wow, is there something that happened to that person? Maybe they need more love. If I'm expecting it from them and they can't give it, obviously there's something that happened there that they need healing with. So you kind of have to forgive them for being human and not being perfect. And when we do that when we're younger, when we learn how to forgive our parents when we're younger, it makes it easier when we get older. But let's say you're 40 years old and you're holding on to these resentments against your parents still because they were not able to give you what you needed. It's okay to feel that way, but it's not healthy and you're not happy feeling that way. So how can you give yourself a break? What you can do is learn to forgive them, feel sorry for them, for whatever it was that happened, and just let them be human. Compassionately let that go. Compassionately look at them as people that have not developed the tools to deal with pain. But you don't have to stay there. You don't have to be stuck in that place where you don't know how to deal with pain. Now with the Four Noble Truths, you can learn how to accept what is, forgive, be compassionate, and move forward in a healthy life. So, I look at children sometimes. I look at their, excuse me, I have allergies, so I'm trying not to sneeze. I look at their relationship sometimes with their parents, and I see children always looking for you did good, you did great, good for you, good job. And I think children need to hear that when they do well. I think children need to know that they're doing something right and they're doing it well. And if they're making a mistake, that you can say, you did a good job, but let's look at this. How can we fix this? More of a positive approach. I think we are doing our children a disservice when we're not letting them fail. This is a big part of society these days, and it's an important thing to look at. When we don't learn how to fail and accept failures, we don't have to think of it as a failure. We can think of it as something that didn't work. Oh, I tried this and it didn't work. Okay, sometimes things don't work. Sometimes it doesn't work out. It's acceptance. If you don't teach your children acceptance, they are going to learn suffering. They're going to expect things from people that they're not going to get. If you always tell your children that they did a good job, always, they're not going to learn how to do better. If you're having a foot race, the children are having a foot race, and there's a winner, a clear winner, and the rest came in second and third and so on. The rest came in second and third and so on. Not everybody gets to have a trophy. Sometimes we lose. Sometimes we don't win the race. But it's okay. See, I think that's the lesson that we forget, is that it's okay to not win every race. It's okay if you did your best. Did you run your hardest? Did you try your hardest? Well, then you did great. They're not going to win every time. But it's all right. If we can learn to lose gracefully and go over to the winner and congratulate them and be happy for them, I think you're teaching your children something very important. I think you're teaching your children that not everybody gets a trophy every time. Not every time when they go into work are they going to get a raise. Not every time is their boss going to be happy with them. Not every time that they do something is somebody going to give them a cheering squad. Life is not that kind. And in reality, we need to learn that sometimes things don't work. Things don't work out the way we want them. We can want it to work out a certain way all we want, but if it's not going to do it, we have to learn acceptance. And when we learn acceptance, we're practicing the Fourth Noble Truth. Gracefully learning. Things don't always work. But when they do work out, we can celebrate it and be happy. And when we see other people that don't win, we can say, you know what, you did a really good job. I saw you running really fast. I'm sorry you didn't win, but you did good. You tried really hard. Those are the more important lessons that I think we need to teach our children. Because I see a lot of people coming to me in their 20s and 30s who came from a generation where their parents didn't let them lose. And they're very confused, and they're very sad, and they want what they want, and they don't know why, as adults, they're not getting it. And I feel bad for them because they didn't get to learn those lessons. So, I'm going to take a break and listen to a commercial, but during the commercial, give it a couple of seconds of thought. How am I raising my children, my grandchildren? Am I teaching them the right lessons? Thank you for joining me. We'll be back in a few minutes.
You're invited to participate in a true multimedia experience coming to a home near you. LCM TV is bringing Lake County into the new millennium with news, live broadcast, information, music, talk shows, and local programming, all streaming in high definition online and soon to be on your Roku box. Join us at lcm-tv.com or be a part of our studio audience. You can also watch the shows at lakecomagazine.com as we provide programming to inform, enlighten, and maybe even enrage you. On Lake County Magazine Talk Show with Terry and Pete the Tax Guy, Wednesday mornings at 9 a.m. Like racing? Try the Checkered Flag Show, hosted by Ace Naylor on Tuesdays at 7 p.m. All ages and divisions in regional and national fields. Joni Lane brings a positive light to you every Monday at 3 p.m. Pasha Space brings an international flair as they discuss ecological, health, and social issues in Haiti with people around the world. End up your week with positive, conscious sounds on Saturday at 9 a.m. with Sister T on the bridge. This show is also simulcast on KMEC 105.1 FM in Ukiah. Our latest show, LCM TV News, is brought to you live Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays at noon, and rebroadcast at 6:30 p.m. and noon daily, Tuesday, Saturday, and Sunday, featuring national, regional, and local news, weather, and sports. We have it all here for you on your local TV station, LCM TV. Join us online and soon on Roku, giving you access to all the best Lake County has to offer. We are LCMTV.com, your multimedia connection. Tune in for the fun. It's live TV at its best.
There, that's better. Now you can hear me. Hi, and welcome back to A Positive Light. I am your host, Joni Lane, and we are here every Monday at 3 o'clock. And you were listening to a commercial. And at the end of the show today, we're going to put up a graphic, and I'm gonna leave you with some thoughts with that graphic. But until then, we were talking about the Four Noble Truths and suffering, creating our own suffering, teaching our children the lessons of loss and acceptance, as well as being proud of themselves when they win and when they lose. I don't know if losing is the right word, because are you really losing just because you didn't come in first? Not really. But you didn't win either. And that's truth. It's a truth we need to accept. Sometimes things don't work out the way we want them to. I think that the sooner our children learn to deal with disappointment, the sooner we can teach them that it's okay. Disappointment happens. And it's okay to feel bad about it. It's okay to be sad. It's okay to be angry. But there's right ways and wrong ways of being angry. You don't take anger out on other people, but you look at where it came from. You look at the disappointment. What caused it? What can you do about it? Is there something you can do about it? Or do you just need to accept it for what it is? That's pretty much what it comes down to. It's really simple. I think when we're trying to protect our children, we hate to see them suffer. We hate to see them sad. But once they learn how to deal with sadness, once they learn how to deal with disappointment, it doesn't really hurt them as much, because they've learned how to deal with it. They've learned how to accept what is. Not necessarily what they want, but it is what it is, and they can accept it. Or they can live in disappointment. I think living in disappointment sometimes for a brief period is probably good for us when we're young, because we learn to know that feeling. I mean, we need to sit in that feeling in order to understand it. It's not a pleasant feeling, and nobody likes to see their children being unhappy or suffering. But on the other hand, you want them to learn a lesson so they can get past it. And they can get through it, and they can learn to let things go. If you don't give them that gift, you will be harming them. And that's a hard lesson for parents to learn, because it's very difficult. But I think it's very important. Let's look at how to create a vessel within ourselves to create something to hold our happiness in. A lot of times when we're growing up, we learn how to store our anger. We learn how to store our disappointments. We learn how to store our expectations that weren't met with other people. They weren't met through the eyes of our parents, perhaps. And so we've learned layers and put layers and layers and layers of disappointment and anxiety and anger and sadness, and we've put all this stuff in stacks inside of ourselves, and we've filled ourselves up with disappointment. We don't really have the tools to do anything with it. We don't really know what to do with it. So we sit it in ourselves and we store it up. We let it sit there and we stack more on top of it. And we fill our vessel with unhappiness and disappointment. Feelings of lack of self-worth, feelings of not quite being up to par, not quite making it. And so those feelings sit there in us and we just kind of accept them. We accept them as, well, that's just the way it is. I don't know what to do with it, so I'm going to leave it there. So now you have all this junk that you don't know what to do with. It's just junk and it's clogging you up. It's clogging up your vessel with junk. And now where are you going to store your happiness? There's no room for it. Everybody has a little happiness in them, but excuse me. If you have nothing but stored up junk because you don't know what to do with it, it's not going to be a whole lot of room left for happiness. That's something you need to think about. So how do you create a vessel where you can store happiness? My suggestion is to take a meditation class. If you can't take a meditation class, then take 5 or 10 minutes every day and just sit and breathe. Try not to think of anything specific, just sit quietly and breathe. And step back from your emotions a little bit. Step back from your participation in your emotions and look at them objectively. And decide what things you have stored in you that you really don't need anymore. Do you really need resentments from the 6th grade, from when somebody said or did something to you that you don't like? You still carry that around with you? Because it's not uncommon. It's kind of funny when you think about it, but it's not uncommon at all. Most of us have things in us that happened years ago. Literally 20, 30, 40 years ago, and we are still carrying them around, and we are still talking about them a little bit. Boy, I remember when so-and-so did this, and it really affected you deeply. But obviously never processed it out, because if you had processed it and dealt with it and accepted it and realized whose part was whose and then let go of it, it wouldn't bother you anymore. So creating a vessel to store happiness is a very interesting process. And it doesn't have to be difficult. It can be taking one thing, one thought, one memory, and just looking at it and asking yourself truly, why does this still hurt me? Where did it come from? Why did it hurt me in the first place? Why did I put so much importance on this one thing? You know, people make mistakes. They say things that they shouldn't have said all the time. I've done it. I think we all have. But it doesn't mean we meant it at the time. 20, 30, 40 years ago, something may have been said or done, but you go ask that person today, they would have no idea what you're talking about. Probably not remember what you're talking about. Probably not understand why it affected you that deeply, because they don't have a clue as what you're talking about. We often will hold on to things because we don't know what to do with it, and then it becomes bigger, and it becomes bigger, and it festers, and it becomes something that actually controls the way we act, and we start acting out, and that becomes a habit. It becomes a cycle. So when you start doing some meditation and separating yourself from these feelings and the emotions and look at them for what it is and actually allow yourself to let it go. Give yourself permission to not drag it around with you anymore. Give yourself permission to let that go. When you do that, it's difficult because it's almost like It's something you're used to. It becomes part of your identity in a way. It becomes part of what makes you up. But that's not really true. It's something that you've held on to for whatever reason. This resentment has come into becoming a whole new animal now. It has become part of your personality. It doesn't sound like it would be a good part of your personality. It's not a very positive feeling. So it doesn't sound like it would be a very positive part of your personality. That's not a judgment. It's just an observation. So when you look at things as an observation instead of judging yourself, you can look at them objectively and say, you know what? I don't need this anymore. This really doesn't make sense that I would have this inside of me still. I really want to let this go. Well, then it comes the question, how do you let that go? And I think that becomes, you can simplify it a little bit by allowing yourself to understand that what was, and what is. Today, in this world, does that experience actually have a place? Or does it live only in your mind? Is it a real thing? If you walk around with a limp because somebody broke your leg, yeah, it's a real thing. You are living with a physical problem now because of something someone did. But even that can be let go. We have scars that trigger emotions in us. When they trigger emotions in us, it triggers our reactions. And when we trigger reactions that are caused by emotions, we are allowing those emotions to run us. And it's usually fear. And when fear, which is anger, runs us, we are not living a balanced life. When you look at the beginning of our conversation when we're talking about a balanced life and living in happiness, I think you can understand now why I point out trying to let go of the junk that we've layered in ourselves so that we can create a vessel to have happiness bloom instead of anger. Let's replace a few things. Let's replace our anger. Try to think of a situation. I know one. When I was in the 3rd grade, I think, that's a long time ago, somebody hurt my feelings very badly. I don't even know what they said to me, but it hurt. And I just remember it. I just remember that it hurt. It still hurts. Oh, I remember in the 3rd grade. That hurts. And even just saying it brings up emotions. It brings up feelings of inadequacies and being less than, and feeling my lack of self-worth is huge. And I know it came from that era, and I know that it still affects me, and I don't remember the situation. That's something that I didn't know how to deal with. I didn't have anyone to discuss it with that would help me understand. So I stopped it, and I kept it in there, and I kept making a big deal out of it. I kept dragging it with me everywhere I went, and I made a big deal out of it, and it became huge. It's probably nothing more than anything else that happened to me that was unpleasant, but it affected me deeply, and it still does. But when I look at it logically, when I sit and I look at it, I think, I laugh because it was so long ago, and I don't need to let that bother me. I don't need to let that person or that situation bother me. Because the people that I went to school with in the 3rd grade were also little children. They were also having their own difficult time growing and learning and becoming people. And yeah, I can forgive whatever it was because it was so long ago. And through letting that forgiveness overcome the pain, I can let the laughter come and laugh about it, and I can let that flow. And when I do that, it actually reduces the stress. I feel my chest isn't so tight. I've opened up. I've created a space in my vessel for loving energy and forgiveness. that's just a small sample of what goes on. You know, I'm 57 years old, so I've had 57 years of life, and life isn't always easy. So there's always the things we choose to hang on to, and the things we choose not to. But often we do that for a reason because we don't know what else to do with it. I'm giving you options. I'm giving you other things to do with it. Now you can make an actual choice to let things go. Through meditation, you can look at something for what it is, not for how it affected you, not for the emotions that it caused, looking at it for what it really is, and the truth of the situation, the truth of the feelings, and how much validity did you give those feelings. At the time, what hurt, hurt, and we can't say it didn't. But do we really need to bring it with us for the rest of our life? I don't think so. I think we can really let things go. People make mistakes. We all say things that we either said badly or we didn't mean. A lot of times we feel bad that we said something, it came out wrong, and we're like, wow, that really came out badly. I'm sorry. I didn't mean that. But the damage is done. But going back and apologizing for it, they have a choice then to let it go and forgive you or hang on to it. If you find yourself hanging on to things that your parents did a long time ago, look at the fact that they're people. They are people. They made mistakes. They have their own issues. You're an adult now. You have your own issues. We all make mistakes with our children. Our parents did too. We need to forgive them. We need to allow that stuff to go away. Let go of it. Through meditation, you can breathe it away. You can let it float away. You can empty your vessel of all that negative energy. You can make the choice to be happy. It sounds really simple. It takes effort. It takes some effort to make changes in your life. But now, look at this. Do you really want to walk around in an unhappy, angry state all the time? Or do you want to walk around in happiness and feeling lighter and having people come up and say, wow, you smile a lot. You have a light about you. It's amazing the things that people will say to you when you're actually feeling good. And when you're hanging on to old stuff that doesn't matter, it shows. And people feel really bad for you, but they don't know how to help you. It's really up to you. It's all about your choices. So when you accept one phrase, it's always up to you. You can ask people to say they're sorry. It's still up to you to let them go, to let those feelings go. Still up to you to forgive. It's still up to you to either hang on to good stuff or hang on to bad stuff. Nobody else can do it. But I think meditation is a really easy way to learn how to let things go. Let's not let negative energy rule our life. So since you get to choose what you do or don't want to have in your life, you may ask yourself some questions like, well, I want to make some changes in my life. I want to change some things because I know what I want and I know what I need to be happy. But what if making those changes hurts somebody I love? What if I lose someone or it makes somebody else unhappy? Aren't I responsible for their feelings? And no, you're not. It's never pleasant to make big changes in your life that affect other people in a negative way. And if you can make yourself happy without hurting other people, that's awesome, but that doesn't always happen. Sometimes someone is going to be disappointed. But that is when you have to sit and talk to them and explain. This is not anything to do with them. This has nothing to do with them laying blame on you or you laying blame on them. This has to do with your ultimate happiness. And really, if they are disappointed and living in their own suffering because of it, it really is up to them to learn to accept what is and learn to love you anyway. If they have a hard time with something and you are compassionately explaining it to them because you need to be happy and they're having a difficulty with it, understand that it's hard for them and you need to be compassionate toward those feelings. Help them deal with it. But don't give up who you are or your happiness because of someone else. We often do that. And I think women do that a lot for men, but I know some men that have done that for women too. And there's always a compromise you can make, but I think communication and compassionate communication is a big part of that, helping someone understand why you need to do the things you do. Sometimes it's not a big deal. Sometimes you simply want to go start a painting class or a yoga class or teach preschool. I don't know. But if it's really out of the blue, sometimes that can take people by surprise and kind of rock their world a little bit and make them feel insecure. And that's okay. It's really normal to feel that way. I think your responsibility in that would be to help them understand. But ultimately, the feelings are theirs. The suffering, and whether they're going to choose to hang on to suffering or not, is their choice. But we need to make our own choices in this life, and we need to be happy. Doesn't mean we need to disregard other people's feelings, but we do need to be happy. And we can be compassionate and kind about the changes that we make in our life. So those are some of the things I wanted you to think about today. And keeping a balance in your life is very important, whether you're working really hard and forgetting to go out and play, which is a balance. You need to work and play. You need family and friends, and you need alone time. You need all kinds of balance. Balance food, balance spirituality, balance in everything. So try to find a balance in your life, and you'll find that you're a lot happier. If you learn to let go of things that you don't need anymore, you'll be a lot happier. One of the things that I wanted to leave you with today is the graphic that you'll be seeing on your screen in the 12 and Zen. Every second Tuesday of the month, I hold a 12 and Zen class at the nonprofit in Kelseyville at 7 o'clock. And tomorrow is our second Tuesday. And there's no cost, and donations are appreciated. And the Step 2, 12 and Zen, is by Bill Crumbine. It's a book that he's written. And the traditional AA Step 2 is from the Big Book. Came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. The Zen Practitioner, which was written by Roshi Bernie Glassman, I came to have faith in an enlightened way. Step 2 of the Societal Normal by Herb Echodeer became willing to do these steps, believing we can heal if we do. And during the 12 and Zen, we'll look at these 3 versions of Step 2. And you'll pick one that resonates with you. And you'll meditate on it for about 10 minutes. For example, if I was to pick Zen Practitioner, I would just repeat in my head, I came to have faith in an enlightened way. I came to have faith in an enlightened way. And on meditating on that, something may bloom and blossom in my brain. And what does that mean? I came to have faith in an enlightened way. There's an action there. I came to have faith. Faith, believing in something you can't see. I came to have faith in an enlightened way. What does that mean? Well, it doesn't mean I'm going to be enlightened. It means it's the way to enlightenment. So in meditating on that, after about 5-10 minutes, an entire story sometimes might start blooming in my mind. What does this mean? What does this statement mean? And then after we've meditated on a particular step that resonates with us, I will read a Buddhist koan that was particularly paired with that step. And Bill Crumbine has paired these koans, or stories, to go with these steps to help us understand a deeper understanding of our steps. Sometimes through that story and thinking about the step, we'll look at the step totally differently. Sometimes a story or a parable can jog some other part of our mind that thought, wow, I've never looked at it like that before. I've never seen the step like that before. And it's a really interesting thing, because if we have 6 people there, we'll get 6 different views on the same step. And I learned so much from hearing what other people come up with. It's an amazing thing, and we all share what we learn. You don't have to, but we like to, because we learn so much from it. And it's a fun hour. It's a very insightful hour. We get a lot of insight out of it. We love sharing our ideas with each other. So every second Tuesday at 7 o'clock, tomorrow night is our second Tuesday, I will be reading the koan tomorrow night that goes with this step. So if you'd like to join us and find out what that koan is, I would really love to share it with you. So my information on where we are, 6470 Kelsey Creek Drive in Kelseyville. If you're interested in learning more about it, email me. If you'd like to come, the class is open to the public, no cost. And find out more about what the Buddhist koan is and how that relates to that. And it's a very interesting approach to life and looking at life differently. And it's amazing the doors that will open up in this one particular group. So I encourage you to show up tomorrow and find out what this is all about. In the meantime, take care of yourself and think about the things you can let go of. Think about the suffering that you don't want to hang on to anymore. Think about opening up, cleansing your vessel of all the junk that you've put in there and opening up for some loving energy instead. And living in a happy, loving space and sharing that with others. So I will be back next Monday with Eugenie Steinman when she's going to be talking to us about the local Native American culture. And I look forward to that, and I look forward to you joining us then, Monday at 3 o'clock. Thank you, LCM TV, for having us today, and thank you, Sam, for letting us listen to your beautiful music beyond the crescent moon. Until next week, take care of yourself.